The rain didn't just fall that night. It punished the earth. Cold water slammed into the ground, turning dirt to sludge, soaking everything it touched, including a small, motionless puppy tied to a tree on the edge of nowhere. He didn't bark. He didn't cry. He just waited. A German shepherd, no more than 5 months old, sat with his head lowered by a rope pulled so tight it cut into his skin. One ear drooped, the other stood high, but his eyes never left the road. Not when the thunder cracked. Not when headlights finally pierced through the downpour. Not even when I stepped out of my truck and into the storm. That's when I found him. Alone, shaking, ribs showing through wet fur, but still watching the road like someone was supposed to come back. Like he still believed they would. My name's Daniel, and before that night, I hadn't spoken to another human face-to-face in days. Maybe weeks. I lived off a gravel road outside a forgotten town, keeping to myself, trying to survive the silence left behind after war and loss. But this dog, this broken creature in the rain, he didn't just need saving. He reminded me what it meant to feel again. What happened next wasn't something I could have planned. It wasn't just about rescuing a dog. It was about both of us learning how to come back to life. Slowly, painfully, but together. And you're about to hear the full story. This is Acts of Kindness Stories, and this is the night everything changed. For him. And for me. I knelt down, my hands trembling as I stretched them out toward him. The German Shepherd puppy hadn't moved a muscle since I arrived. He just sat there, rain soaking into his fur. His eyes locked on the road in front of him. No growls, no barks, just waiting. I spoke softly, almost to myself. "Hey there, buddy. You okay?" The only response was a slight shift in his gaze, but not away from the road. His body was stiff, like he'd forgotten how to relax. His head low under the tight rope that bound him to the tree. Whoever had tied him there had left him with little hope. A rusted metal bowl lay discarded on the ground, a faded towel half buried in mud. Whoever did this wanted him to disappear. But he wasn't gone. He was still here, waiting. I crouched low, the cold mud sinking into my boots, feeling the storm batter my face. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a strip of beef jerky. I tore it in half and set the pieces down between us. His eyes flickered. A small tremble ran through his body, but he stayed where he was. I whispered, "Take your time, little guy. I'm not going anywhere." For a long while, there was just silence, the only sound the rain crashing against the earth. Then, with the smallest movement, he leaned forward, cautiously sniffing the jerky. His legs shaking as if every step was a battle against his own fear. Finally, he licked the meat, then pulled back, looking up at me. That's when I saw it, the faintest spark of hope in his eyes. It was there, hidden behind exhaustion and fear, but it was there. I reached for the rope around his neck. It was frayed, tight from days of being pulled, the collar digging into his neck. The skin underneath was raw, angry red, but I didn't hesitate. I worked slowly, my fingers numb from the cold but steady, untying the knots that had held him in place. He didn't flinch. He didn't run. He just sat there waiting. The rope fell away, and for the first time he was free. But he didn't run. He didn't even move. He just sat there, still, like he didn't know what to do with his newfound freedom. I stood up and unzipped my jacket, draping it over his trembling body, lifting him carefully into my arms. He was light, too light. His bones felt fragile beneath the layers of soaked fur. He didn't make a sound as I carried him to my truck, laying him gently on the passenger seat. The heat kicked on and I shut the door behind me. I caught a glimpse of his eyes in the rearview mirror, watching me with that same expression, hope mixed with confusion. "You're okay now," I whispered to him as I drove. "I got you." I didn't know what I was doing, but for the first time in years, I felt like I had a reason to keep going. This dog, this tiny broken creature, had already begun to change something in me. It wasn't about saving him. It was about something deeper, something I wasn't ready to face. When I called Sarah, the vet, she didn't hesitate. "Bring him in," she said. Her voice was calm, professional, but there was something in it that told me she knew what I was about to face. A puppy that had been left to die needed more than medical attention. He needed something I couldn't yet understand. By the time I arrived at the clinic, Sarah was already ready. The puppy was hooked up to fluids, his vitals checked, wounds cleaned. He didn't resist any of it. He just lay there, still and silent, like this was his reality now. Being healed, being saved, but not knowing how to accept it. I watched him as Sarah worked, trying to make sense of what had happened. "He's not shut down," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "He's just done." The words hit me harder than I expected. This puppy wasn't just physically hurt. He had been broken, abandoned in a way that wasn't just about survival. Whoever had left him tied to that tree hadn't just stolen his hope. They had taken his belief that anyone could love him. But here he was, still fighting, still alive. As the hours passed, Sarah continued her work, making sure he was stabilized. I stayed by his side, watching over him, not knowing what to say or do. It wasn't just about getting him back to health. It was about something more. I could feel it in my chest, like there was a part of me that was healing too, just by being present with him. And that night something incredible happened. As I sat on the floor near his crate, I spoke to him. It felt strange at first, talking to an animal who couldn't respond, but it wasn't just the dog I was talking to. I was talking to myself too. I was telling him about the things I had seen, the places I had been, the people I had lost. I didn't expect him to understand, but I needed to say it. And then, after hours of silence, he did something unexpected. He reached his paw through the bars of the crate and placed it on my hand. It wasn't a swipe. It wasn't a scratch. It was a quiet connection. A silent understanding. His small body trembled, but his touch felt like a promise. I couldn't explain it, but in that moment I realized that maybe, just maybe, we had found each other at the exact right time. He was waiting for me just as much as I was waiting for him. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed awake, watching over him, keeping him company. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, I wasn't alone. The next few weeks were a blur. Axel, because that's what I named him, wasn't just a dog. He became my reason for getting up in the morning, my reason for leaving the house, for doing anything other than sitting in the silence. His recovery wasn't easy, but it was steady. He began to gain strength, and with every step forward I took one too. But it wasn't just his body that healed. It was his soul. The first time he ran was a moment I'll never forget. It wasn't a full-on sprint, but it didn't need to be. Axel ran in a way that was pure and free. It was a small circle, but it was a victory, a sign that he was learning what joy felt like again. And for the first time in a long time I realized something. Healing doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's the small moments that matter most. Axel didn't need to be perfect. He didn't need to do tricks. He just needed to be present. He taught me that healing, true healing, comes in moments of quiet connection. It comes in the simple act of being there, even when it's hard. As the weeks went by, Axel continued to heal. But it wasn't just his body that was recovering. It was the space between his scars, the silent trauma that no one could see. He had been broken, abandoned, and yet in his quiet strength, he became the very thing that brought healing to everyone around him. Every time I watched Axel connect with someone, whether it was a veteran struggling with their own demons or a child who'd never known trust, I saw a new layer of his purpose emerge. He wasn't just a dog. He was a reminder that healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It's slow, sometimes painful, but it's worth it. I learned something valuable from Axel. He taught me that sometimes being there is enough. Sometimes all we need is someone to stay when everything else feels uncertain. And in his own way, Axel stayed. He never gave up, even when the world had. He saved my life. Not in the way I expected, but in the way I needed. And so we walked this journey together, him and me. And with every step, we both found a little more peace, a little more trust, a little more of what it means to truly be alive, to truly be there for someone. That's what Acts of Kindness Stories is all about. finding the quiet moments, the unsung heroes, and the real transformations that happen when we give someone or something our time and compassion. If Axel's story has touched you, if you found hope or healing in the way he changed my life, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Every story shared is a chance to inspire someone else, to keep the ripple effect going. And don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness Stories as we continue to share more stories that matter, more stories of healing, second chances, and love. Let's grow this community to 10,000 subscribers and keep spreading kindness wherever we go. 'Cause like Axel, we all deserve a second chance. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change everything.